Apples and
This
oranges.
is Patriot Sentinel, where truth doesn't whisper, it roars. Hosted by Richard Tortorello, we're cutting through the noise to talk government, politics, fairness, the Constitution, community, and God. Stand up, speak out. The watch begins now.
Now, Mr. President, if I have you sign the OU hat, would you say Boomer Sooner?
I'll do it.
There's only one.
How is your football team?
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be
Do
great.
they have a good quarterback?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
you need a quarterback in that business.
I really appreciate it.
So the two teams are good. The one
I tell you what, there is no doubt in my mind why Oklahomans love President Trump. Why? I mean, look, half of America loves this man. He's the only guy, okay, that if you saw this clip on Cup One, these are the workers who were flown in from around the nation, mostly from Oklahoma, to work on the reflection pool. Okay, and so he invites him to the Oval Office last night to do a hat signing and a handshaking. Tell me the last time, Cam, you saw an American president do something like this. Good evening, folks. My name is Richard Tortorello with the Patriot Sentinel. I'm here with my best friend, Cam. And Cam, when was the last time you saw an American president invite the working class to his office to congratulate them and shake their hands?
Who was it? Ronald Reagan? I was gonna say it's been that long because I don't think Bill Clinton did it. Senior Bush, Bush Jr., Obama, Biden. No, I don't think so. Might be wrong, but who who? I've seen sports players, like the NBA champions, the World Series champions, the Stanley Cup champions, but not
Mm-hmm.
the workers. So, that's a good question. I wonder who was the last one.
Well, we can say for sure that he is the first president in our professional lives that has done this. And I tell you what, this is why we love him, why Oklahoma, 3 election cycles in a row, all 77 counties, he carried them. Um, I just love my job. I love what we do. I love going to the White House. I love reporting on this administration. Everything that we're doing so far is something that every American, whether you be a Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, especially if you're a Republican, should realize that he's doing everything for everyone. So Cam, my good friend, how you doing, brother? I hear you have a baby shower Saturday.
Oh man, yeah, I was gonna say that has been a project of itself from painting, power washing, cleaning. Just also nesting. It's a big project, man. I've been having a lot of fun, but we're having friends come over, and then we'll do family later on when we get a little bit closer, before the baby comes here.
The baby. When is he due? Is it?
Late August. He's a boy. Yeah, late August. Mel's ready. She is not a fan of the heat. She's like, I am ready. I am done. I'm good to
uh,
go. No, thank you.
that is that is funny. I'm sure you're gonna have a good time. I will be there. We'll have a good time. I believe that these type of family events um, are what brings people together and teams together. So how's Tinker Air Force Base? I'll tell you about DC. So how is the morale at one of Oklahoma's finest military installation?
Hey man, the best. I was gonna say we're the one who supports the war fighter. We're the reason why we keep our nation safe. So Tinker does a great job, and we have great workers here. We have workers from Tinker that support Warfighter, and they're also helping, with the pool and the project, and Trump signing, having workers over there, and him signing the apprentice signature, the Donald Trump thing. So far, so good, man. I'm excited.
Dude, so DC, looking forward to going back in a couple of weeks. I have tickets to the June 14th President Trump's birthday bash UFC um, event. And I'm just deciding who to take with me as my plus one. So I don't know, should we put it for a raffle? I mean, so it was brought up to me that maybe I should take somebody very influential, but that would mean upending and being home because parties don't stop in DC after an event; they go on through the night, which means I would have to fly back nonstop Monday morning. I got several interviews in the morning and in the afternoon. We have election next week. We have early voting in Oklahoma starting tomorrow and Friday. We have a whole slew of candidates that we all know, and so I don't know if I can make it back in time. That's the issue, is that I'd have to take and look, only two airlines have nonstop flights from Oklahoma City to DC. That's Southwest and American Airlines, and the nonstop flight on American is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's like, damn, if it wasn't for this election cycle, this would be the event of the year. And next month, July 3rd, will be my 1 year anniversary of getting my White House hard pass. 1 year.
Man, look at you go from sitting next to the GOP convention was 2022 to where you're at now, going, oh, I'm gonna go to the White House, guys. Hang on, give me a second. Let me take a quick flight. That's awesome, dude. I'm proud of you. The huge man. Again, more success to you down the road. Suggestion: if you're gonna take somebody to that party, hey, the next governor for the primary election. Just saying, after the primary election.
So heads up, everyone. I do, we do get invitations to these events, and with some planning, I want to bring some very deserving Oklahomans as my one plus or plus one, and so this is one event that we would not be able to attend, unfortunately, because of just the time restrictions. But we will plan these in the future. I mean, we have a lot of things going on. The White House Correspondents Association dinner is back on. And so, we'll be traveling in July and back to DC. And, that's going to be quite an event and looking forward to everything we do. Tonight's special co host guest is Mike Reynolds, former Representative Mike Reynolds. Mike Reynolds, how are you doing, bro?
I'm doing fine. How are you this evening?
All right, you're fine. Stop moving. You're in the frame. You don't have to move back and forth. So, Mike, Cam.
I'm like that.
All right, Cam, Mike. Mike, Cam.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Capital.
So,
I've seen the man
hey,
do the work.
I'm going to ask you. We'll start this segment off with. Can you give us the 3-minute overview of the state question that you authored or you helped authored about the property taxes in Oklahoma, where it's at the Supreme Court, and what's next? Let's go ahead and start with that. So, what's going on with this, and what's the news?
Well, the overview is, the reason it gets started is I didn't like legislation that was passed that even after the counties steal somebody's house and sell it, then they steal their money from the house. The tax resale went on just this week, and I just went to a house earlier today that someone paid for their house cash in 2002, and they lost it to taxes yesterday. Obviously, because it was a divorce thing. It was another person's name. So I'm sure they weren't getting notified. So it's just bizarre. But there were some things going on with tax sales, and it's like, I don't like this anymore. And And so I started reading the Constitution. I Googled ad valorem, and I found a phrase in the Oklahoma Constitution regarding ad valorem that wasn't tucked in where all the other ad valorem things were tucked in. And it said that legislation could be passed to determine the amount of exemption for a homestead. So started talking to some people, and we decided to run a petition to do that. And I gave the legislature a fair break at trying to do something with it. What they did this year, I think they put a ballot initiative out there to cut the growth by 1.25%. But what's worse is they cut growth on businesses by 2%. They gave businesses a better break than people. And I didn't hear an outcry from all the school people. Well, where are they going to make up the revenue? But anyway, last week, Rob Standridge, Senator Standridge, argued our case in the Supreme Court and did a great job. So now we'll hear back from the court at some point. I'm going to guess anywhere from 30 days to 90 days. And they'll say we're good to go or we're not good to go. If they say we're good to go.
I'm looking forward. I think most Oklahomans want something done about the property taxes, Cam, and they're fed up with not owning their homes. And I know that Ferdinand Kearns is running for Oklahoma County. I think is it assessor?
Yeah.
Just because of the property tax. Yeah. So, Cam, what are your thoughts on the property tax issue and the conversation? I know that I've heard a lot. I've had my conversations with both Ferdinand and Larry Stein. But what are your thoughts?
Man, I'll be honest with you. The biggest hurdle that the Oklahoma Constitution has is those 12 statutory laws for property taxes. So until that gets fixed and the legislature decides to do its job, we're going to be stuck. And I hope, Mike is doing a great job. But I'm looking at how we get all these statutory laws fixed so we can move forward. And I agree, it's sad when people lose their homes, especially when you paid off cash. Like, what's the American dream? Lose your home? Come on.
No, the American dream is to keep their home, and we have former Representative Mike Reynolds on to discuss the property tax state question that he helped authored and is now at the Supreme Court. And Mike, before we go to the next segment, what's the next on the list? Are we just waiting for the Supreme Court to come out with a decision? And how do you think they'll rule?
Yes, we're waiting for the court to come out with a decision. Who knows how they'll rule? There's really two aspects to it. And one of the judges asked Rob, which one do you want me to rule on? I understand. Basically, there's the question of, is it even constitutional for the Supreme Court to rule on something before it becomes law? Because in general, courts don't rule on hypotheticals. So that's one issue before the court. Some of the justices, we believe, think it ought to go to a vote of the people, whether it's constitutional or not. I would tend to agree with that. And if it's passed, then people can contest it. Why should we have to spend all of our money now when it may not even pass?
Well, that is odd. Who filed the lawsuit? Who filed the suit?
I think there was basically 9 school teachers, administrators, something of that nature, involved in the lawsuit, and 1 rural firefighter. But the attorney was Robert McCampbell, and he's filed several lawsuits for both sides of issues that I'm interested in at the Supreme Court. So I'm sure they hired a very expensive law attorney to try to make their case. But we'll wait for that. And the strategy, I think, will be if they decide that it's unconstitutional, we can't go forward, then we'll file another one. This one is a statutory change. We will file another one that will be a constitutional change, but we will also consider the fact that we gave the legislature their chance to fix it. And so what we'll do is instead of giving them a 4-year period to implement it, we're going to give them 1 year to implement it if we have to do it constitutionally. So,
Good. I want you to
so
keep us informed, Mike. This is a fascinating subject, and you're right. There's no adverse reaction, so it's kind of premature that it would go take this legal route so early because it hasn't been passed yet. So I'm looking forward to what the Supreme Court is going to rule.
right.
If they're consistent, they will just send it back and let it run its course, and then bring it back as necessary. Um, Again, we have former Representative Mike Reynolds as our guest co-host tonight, and Cam and I will be discussing. We have elections next week. Early voting starts tomorrow and Friday, and an organization that we all like. Sometimes I want to say OPAC. Sometimes they came out with their voter guide, and there are a lot of voter guides floating around Oklahoma, obviously, but OPAC seems to be the most consistent. But this time here, I'm going to disagree with some of their recommendations, and Cam, I'm going to throw it to you real quick, Cam, on the governor's race. Um, they didn't endorse anyone directly, but they said, basically, in their opinion, Charles, Mike, Chip, and Jake are the ones that everyone should look at and make a decision. So, um, what are your thoughts, Clem?
They got to get out to vote, man. At the end of the day, they got to get out to vote. If OPEC is being indecisive with which governor you should pick, then they should be down the list the same thing, right? The same way if there's several candidates in the Republican Party. To me, Charles McCall, great resume, House Speaker, Mike Mazzei, former senator, Chip Keating, great resume, former trooper, Jake Merrick, former senator. It's fascinating, but again, to me, I'm looking who is going to inspire people to come out and vote. That's who's going to win that race.
It's all about the vote next week. But Mike, do you think the Trump endorsement of Mike Mazzei has solidified most Oklahoma minds that he is the one they're going to go and vote for?
Well, I think that it's certainly persuaded a lot of people. I personally don't think that it's going to be decided next week. I believe there'll be the top two candidates. I don't believe with such a good crowd, and I think the polling indicates the same, that it's not going to be decided next week. Right now, it looks like Mazzei and Drummond, but wow, with that latest poll, I suppose Jake Merrick could slip in there. Um, I'm just not sure right now, but yeah,
But
I
you can
would.
agree that you can agree they're all good candidates. So what Mike is referring to was, I think it was an outfit out of Missouri. It's out of state. I'm not sure exactly where it's from. I did see it last week where they did the polling in Oklahoma and basically here's what it is: Mazzei, Gentner, Jake, and Keating were in the top four,
Right.
and they're pretty much equal. Look, they were pretty much it's a four-person race. And then Charles McCall was fifth. But it's like I said, there's so many polls out there. The non-doc poll was the one that initially put Mike Mazzei on top of everyone, which earned him the
Mhm.
Trump endorsement. But Oklahoma is very divided. I think the most active campaign with the most vocal supporters is from the Jake Merrick campaign. I mean, they've been all over social media on every post and every county Facebook page promoting him. And I'm going to say that we have a good bunch of people running for office, and it's it's whoever gets out the vote Thursday and Friday, and of course on Tuesday. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's going to be a runoff, and people are saying it's going to be a Mike Mazzei getting a Drummond runoff. But at this point here, it's who can get the vote out. I think that for us, Cam and I, we discussed this. I'm really looking at Chip Keating, and I go to who is most accessible, who is out there. Um, and, I'm friends with Chip and friends with his family. And I just like the whole package. And like I said, it's anyone's game next Tuesday. And we'll support. Um, it's going to be hard, guys. Look, we don't know, okay? And that's exactly the point, is that the governor's race is up in the air, and it's anybody's game. It's who can get their people motivated to go out and vote. Now, Lieutenant Governor, OPAC, I disagree with this. They've endorsed J.J. Humphreys, T.W. Shannon, and both are good men. Both are solid conservatives. Um, but, JJ has done a lot for the state, Mike, and you served with him. And then
No, I
you
didn't.
also served with, you did not. Did you serve with T.W. Shannon?
Yes, 8 years.
What are your thoughts on this race for Lieutenant Governor? Who do you like?
Well, this race I'm probably less concerned about, but highly interested in, because TW is just using it to catapult himself into his next office. He ran for the U.S. Senate, got defeated twice, kind of used goods. I suspect Tom Cole is going to retire sometime in the near future, and T.W. Shannon's his boy. He worked for him. The tribes desperately want someone at the federal level, I believe, and so they had to get TW back in the game and try to rehabilitate his losses. And I served with TW for 8 years. The idea that he was the most conservative speaker in Oklahoma history, as I recall, TW was only speaker for 1 year, and I did the numbers on it. If I've got it right, TW introduced 176 bills as speaker. Then he resigned midterm, and not one bill was ever heard on the floor of the House of Representatives. So I don't think the members had a lot of gusto for TW's legislative experience, and I certainly don't. I'll be happy when TW is defeated for the last time.
Interesting. Cam, your thoughts on the Lieutenant Governor's race?
Man, you got to look at the lieutenant governor's race as what can they bring to Oklahoma for business or, like, say, airfare, all that kind of stuff. To me, here in the rural areas, I see more Darrell Weaver than anybody here mentioned. I see signs everywhere. I've heard that he's been, door knocking. I haven't seen JJ or TW. So to me, I'm looking who is going to be that individual who's going to be involved. And Rashard and I talked about how Darrell Weaver has been involved with the GOP. I see him at conventions all the time. So I don't know what you think on that one.
Well, look, I think, well, my personal opinion is that I go with whoever is most active in the party as well. Now, in the lieutenant governor's race, he has raised the most money. He has gone to all the counties, and I think he's starting, if not finished, with the second run of all the counties, and he's present. I see Darrell Weaver at every Cleveland County GOP event. I see him at every GOP event. And I think it's a loyalty issue for us. It's a loyalty issue, certainly for me, is that, we have to stand by our friends. He is from Cleveland County, and I've known him for several years now. And, we share a lot of things in common. And I think that for me, it's a loyalty issue. We stick with our friends and support them. And it's not to say that TW or JJ or any of the other candidates are bad. I just have a personal relationship with Darrell, and his family's awesome. Kim is awesome. His supporters are awesome. Mike, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, OPAC listed two. I don't know why they left Darrell out of the conversation if they were not going to go to multiple people. Darrell's a good guy also, and I just pray that if it goes to a runoff and TW is one of them, whether it's JJ or Darrell, they're going to defeat TW.
Well, last word on the lieutenant governor's race, Cam.
Get out to vote. You gotta get
Get
out
out
to
and vote.
vote.
That's right.
This whole thing, I'm gonna make a I'm gonna foretell that we're gonna have next Tuesday the biggest primary Republican turnout in recent history. Everybody's going to come out, and it's the Trump endorsements at both the governor's race level and lieutenant governor's race, and everybody is going to come out to vote. And so we're going to see a lot of good things happening next week. And one of the biggest state questions that we all have to vote no on is state question 832, which is the mandatory minimum wage. I call it scheme. Mike, you've been in the state legislature. Can you give us like an overhead about why, if state question 832 passes, how bad? And in the paper myself, we've written about this extensively. I feel, and I'm pretty sure Cam does too as well, that 832 will be the end, the beginning of the end for small business and the decline of Oklahoma. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I hate when people say to be perfectly honest, because you ought to be perfectly honest all the time. But I want to say, to be perfectly honest, I haven't really studied the issue that much because I'm voting against it. And I've got so many other things going on with, in particular, the property tax initiative. And I am more concerned about a lot of the Senate races that are coming up, that plenty of folks are covering 832. And I hope it's defeated resoundingly for all the reasons that everybody has said. And I haven't gotten into the weeds on that one because there's plenty of people getting there anyway.
Cam, I know you're against 832. We talked about this before in the show. You're still going to be a no votes?
Yeah, no, negative on this one. Right now we're a rising economy and we haven't even peaked. This will just cut ourselves from our heels and we're gonna lose that business. What if the Thunder decides to move from Oklahoma somewhere else because they can't keep up with those wages? That's the thing that we gotta look at. It's not just gonna impact small business, but
Mm-hmm.
the whole entire business enterprise in Oklahoma is gonna impact everybody.
Well, if you follow me and what I've written, the majority of Oklahomans make more than the minimum wage. And so, I do feel for those that live on minimum wage, but it's always meant to be a starting base. It was meant for the folks that are new to the workforce and not to be a livable wage as as the proponents claim that it should be. And so, I'm not torn against this because, there are single moms who just got divorced that have to go work, but the BLS data shows that the majority of Oklahomans make far more than the minimum wage, and everyone should work as best they can to better their circumstances. That's how you get more pay. And like I said, the majority of Oklahomans already make more than the minimum wage. It depends on your education, your skill level, and what you bring to your employer. That's what it comes down to. If you're just bagging groceries, that's a $7 job. It's a $7 an hour job, right? And so, make the choice. We are voting no, and on OPAC, Cam, I'm going to throw this to you because they've taken me for a spin by endorsing Jeff Starlin over Jon Echols.
This I'm I'm baffled on this one because I've worked with Jon Echols at GOP conventions. He was the chair and I was the parliamentarian. And this man has donated his time, his effort to help out the GOP and even at the state level. And for me to see this, I'm like, oh man, what a disappointment because I'm looking at somebody who has been involved within our community. And also, he got endorsed by one of the best sheriffs, Tommy Johnson. Like, come on. Like, this Tommy Johnson to me is the most solid sheriff out there in Oklahoma. And how many people can say that? Tommy just he doesn't just throw his name around. So, to me, I'm going to disagree with that endorsement or that choice because I, you know, John has done a good job, in my opinion.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the Attorney General endorsement?
Well, it's really a very peculiar race for me because in 2008, Larry Nichols and Aubrey McClendon and Clay Bennett and the Loves and the Mathis brothers recruited Jon Echols to run against me. And they funded him massively. And I won that election, only election Jon Echols ever lost.
Wow.
He's a
So should I
flex.
be mad at Larry Nichols or should be mad at Jon Echols? And Jon Echols and I are friends, and I think he'll do a good job. He's been getting a lot of mud slung at him, and that's what they did to me in 2008. So, but the credentials for Starling being Larry Nichols' son-in-law doesn't give me any comfort when Devon's moved to Houston. And what kind of rulings is the attorney? I mean, the oil and gas industry, the biggest industry in Oklahoma, I could see a lot of bad rulings coming out of the attorney general's office regarding major oil corporations because of who the attorney general might be. So I'm all in for Jon Echols, and I am really befuddled also, like you, why OPAC chose to endorse Starling. It appears that he was a DC lobbyist, or certainly very entwined, and so half the mail. I think I got 12 mail pieces today and 8 yesterday. You know, it's stuff generally trashing John or trashing this person or the other, but we'll go into that more later, I'm sure. But no, I'm fully supportive of John, and I just want to mention John did one thing that I haven't seen on any of the mailers. 2 or 3 years ago, I was approached by a group to put a constitutional amendment in to outlaw illegal aliens from voting in Oklahoma. And I wasn't in the legislature. I went to Senator Jett, and he agreed to author it. And John was the House author of that. And I see some mail pieces coming out about how John's giving breaks to illegal aliens and things of that nature. We got that done. It's an impossible task. In the last 3 days of the legislative cycle, it was introduced and passed into law, or passed to go to the ballot in 3 days. I bet that hadn't occurred in Oklahoma history. So John can get things done, and he's got a proven track record, certainly on that, of where he stands regarding illegal aliens and the benefits that they suck out of the Oklahoma economy.
I would have to agree on both counts from both sides. I've known John about the same length as Darrell Weaver. He's also from Cleveland County, and he's been at every Cleveland County event. He's been at every GOP event, and he's a stand-up guy, and he has a plan. He has a plan of what he wants to do with the state and how he wants to function as Attorney General. And with all the mudslinging, Leslie Nismith, she's a friend of the show and she's a friend of ours. There's a lot of mudslinging going on. I've met Jeff Starling a couple of times. He's a nice guy. Met his wife when they were out here in Cleveland County. They're nice folks. I just know Jon Echols, and he is a known quantity, and he has produced and gotten results for Oklahoma. Now, we don't agree 100% on everything here, but we have to go and stay loyal to those that have been loyal to us. And I can tell you unequivocally that he has been loyal to Oklahoma and loyal to the Republican Party. And he will be loyal to the Constitution. He's always been that way. And he will make an outstanding Attorney General. And the mudslinging I see, and I'm just going to point this out because there was a comment about the mudslinging, is that I haven't seen anything of substance from the Starling campaign. Okay. And so that's what tipped us over to Jon Echols. Was John's putting concrete an agenda out there, what he wants to do, and that's what we need. We need somebody who's going to go into that job day one and produce and protect Oklahoma. So
I agree.
OPAC was kind of weird for OPAC to do that, but we'll see what happens. So hopefully that there's no runoff. Well, it's not going to be a runoff. It's only two candidates running for that position, but hopefully he prevails, and we can prepare for the November election. State Treasurer Todd Russ, friend of the show. So OPEC got this one right. We had Todd on the show, and he shared with us what he's done. We tried to get Cindy Byrd on the show. We just didn't. We weren't successful. And they're out there campaigning, so it's okay. But Todd Russ has done a great job as treasurer, and he's always accessible. One of the things I look at when I put my support behind somebody is that, are they there? Will they answer the phone calls? Will they take your emails and return text messages? It doesn't mean that we're just, bugging him and bombarding him with questions. It's that when we have questions or issues, how responsive are they? When I was in public office, and I know you were, Mike, I answered every phone call, every text message, every email. That's just the job. Cam, we'll start with you. Todd Russ, good choice for treasurer, or Cindy Byrd?
He's done a good job. He's the incumbent. He already has the connections. If there's things coming through his office, he knows what to do. He's settled. He has 4 more years. In my opinion, I'm gonna go with the incumbent on this one. He's done a good job. There's no complaints in my eyes. Like, he has been making sure to check those banks that have been outstanding, and he's been doing a good job, in my opinion.
Mike, your thoughts on the state treasurer, Todd Russ, Cindy Byrd?
I served with Todd in the House. He was a friend, a good friend, still's a friend, but I've been disappointed in some things that have gone on in the last few months. One of the biggest things for me was reforming the Oklahoma Unclaimed Property Fund. I don't know what there is now, $1.5 billion in there that the Treasurer's Office has made pretty much impossible not impossible, very difficult for citizens to get their money back. And the bill was passed 2 years ago to make it easier. And part of it was to reveal the amount of money on each claim that a person has.
Mm-hmm.
The bill was passed, and then when we tried to find out, Todd went to the Attorney General's office and had them write this bizarre letter. It's not even an AG opinion that says, well, this bill isn't retroactive, so we don't have to tell the amounts on the $1.5 billion sitting out there in the fund now. It's only in the future when money comes in. That's not what the bill said at all, and the AG had enough sense not to issue an official AG opinion. I've never seen someone just use a letter from the AG's office. That kind of soured me on the deal. And then when I heard that Todd was taking more money out of the Unclaimed Property Fund to set up a satellite office in Clinton, Oklahoma, I really didn't like that. And I've also had a personal relationship with Cindy Byrd. OPAC, for some reason, has been on her case forever. And I defended her 4 years ago, I think it was, when she ran for re-election. There were things being said about her, and I got up at OPAC and gave a speech. So I've determined to hitch my wagon to Cindy Byrd, and I think that she'll do an outstanding job. And as the state auditor, she probably has lots of the same experience that's necessary to run the treasurer's office that Todd has.
All right, well, diverse thought here. It's what makes Republican Party, makes our friendship dynamic, is that we don't have to agree on everything here. And Cindy Bird's a fine person too, as well. Nothing wrong with her. Again, my issue is, my criteria is loyalty, and Todd's always been responsive. I kind of agree with you on the missing, the property issue, but that I can overcome. He's done a fine job overall. Go back to cut one. We have OPAC, James Taylor for state superintendent. James Taylor is a friend, and and he's done a fine job as a teacher. He's a great speaker. Um, but I'm more partial to Dr. John Cox. We'll start with Cam this time. Your thoughts on state superintendent?
Yeah, I like Dr. Cox. He's been campaigning more than a year ago. He has been out there. He talks about his resume. I've seen him go up to people and have uncomfortable conversations and still come out having a friendship at the end of the day. I've seen him, I've seen people heated. I've seen him calm people down, de-escalate. Uh, I like how he is presenting himself and what he has to offer. I like Dr. Cox.
Mike, what's your thoughts on the state superintendent position?
When I was in the legislature, I didn't. We had plenty of qualified people, and I didn't pay that much attention to educational issues. I just kind of went with what the experts in the House said. My main issue in this race is the legislature passed a law to turn over the salaries of statewide elected officials in the legislature to a board. And that board is so bogus, it's unbelievable. I went and spoke at that board. And then they made a special provision for Adam Pugh so that he could get elected when the Constitution specifically says you can't serve in another office during your term of office if the salary is increased. So they made a special provision to not increase the salary if Adam Pugh is elected. He is so totally disqualified in my mind that everybody else is 10 times better. And if people vote for Adam Pugh, that is a huge mistake. The other folks, I haven't visited with them. That's not true. JT is a friend. I think he'd make a fantastic head of the Department of Education. I've never met Mr. Cox, so I couldn't speak to that. But what they did for Adam Pugh was disgusting, and that board needs to go away.
Well, thank you for the thoughts. I've met all the candidates, and like I said, JT's a friend of ours, and I've known him since 2020. I go with the relationship, and John Cox has been around the state. He's a current superintendent today, and I believe that if Governor Stitt had not endorsed Ryan Walters, John Cox would be state superintendent. So he checks all the boxes. But I do know that whatever happens next Tuesday, if it comes down to John Cox and JT, it'll be a good race in the runoff because both are fine men.
Yes.
The edge just goes to John because he's sitting in the position, and we need somebody who is also a teacher. JT is teaching, but who's also an executive with that experience. And I just believe with all my interactions with everybody that John Cox fills what people are looking for. Let's go back to cut one. The next position is labor commissioner, and OPAC again. I think they chose two people, Lisa Janlou and Kevin West, both fine Republicans. Kevin West is here in Cleveland County. I've known him about 3 or 4 years now. Lisa Janlou came up on the scene, and she has been around the state. She has gone to all the counties, and I think she's starting a couple of months ago on her second run. And both are business owners. Both now she has run for office before, and so this is, I think, her second attempt or third attempt at running for public office, and that's not a bad thing. Kevin West was the House rep in District 54 more, or 54, and also a fine individual. And I think OPAC did this one right. Choose either one. Either one will do a good job for Oklahoma. But in our interactions, with myself and Cam, I think Lisa Janlou has kind of edged him out and is deserving of this job. And Cam, I'll let you take this one. Your thoughts on Lisa Janlou versus Kevin West?
Yeah, no, so if you look at Lisa, she has been going across the states for over a year and a half. I've seen her at GOP conventions, state conventions, women Republican Federation conventions. She's been heavily involved with our community. And on top of that, I see her, showing at what time she's waking up and putting yard signs, door knocking. And I see her putting signs with her sister. What was it, 2 days, 2 nights ago? At
Right?
midnight in the middle of nowhere. So she is showing that she is out there hustling. And unfortunately, I don't see that same work ethic from Kevin and West. I haven't. I don't know if it's been advertised, but I hope he is also hustling because all I see from Lisa is getting those people out to vote.
Absolutely. Mike, your thoughts, labor commissioner?
Well, I've never met Lisa, but there's no finer person than Kevin West, and so I've known him for 10 or 12 years, and I think he'd do a great job. So I would have nothing negative to say about Lisa at all. Know nothing about her. It sounds like she's great. I do know that if John Pfeiffer gets 1% of the vote, that's be more than I think he ought to get.
Well, I love that about you. That kind of rounds out what we came here to discuss tonight. I want to thank Mike Reynolds for joining us as our guest contributor co-host. It's always a thrill talking with you, Mike. So most people, I'm gonna tell the story. So I was heading west to see a client last year. You remember this?
Oh
And
yeah.
you called me. You said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm gonna go up to El Reno. I gotta go see a client." He goes, "Well, where are you at?" And we met up on 40, and you hung out with me for the entire day, sat with my client,
You
and
went
you
to
came back.
Clinton
And
or Weatherford.
I don't know where it was. It was a long butt drive, but the point is that I like these relationships that we all have. Is that you can call out of the blue and say, "What's up? What are you doing?" Uh, I'm over here. Pick me up. And that was a good conversation we had on a long ass trip about everything. And I appreciate that about you, Mike, is that you hold no bars, and you have seen a lot, you've done a lot, and I always like having conversations, and always come on the show anytime you want to come on and talk about things here. You're more than welcome to come on. And but I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate your brother here in Cleveland County and what he's done. And the circle of friends that we have is outstanding. And going back, there's a lot of comments coming in here, and just I want to say for the governor's race, Jake Merrick, everyone running for that position, they're all fine people. I look at my criteria for things is personal relationship, how accessible, experience. I've met all the candidates. Okay, I like every one of them. And for us, for Cam and I think Chip Keating just pushed it over. But it's anyone's game next week, and it comes down if Jake is in the top four. This poll shows him in the top four. And for those Jake supporters out there, for Jake, if you're listening, your people are out there getting you on every social media post, every channel, and they're doing you service, great service by getting your name out there. Okay, and that is the name of the game. Okay, so it's gonna be. I feel Tuesday night. There's gonna be a couple of upsets, and I know that my partners, my friends, um, they have their own selection. Mike Macy is a fine man. Ginter Drummond, I heard him speak 2 weeks ago at Lawton, at the Lawton debate there, and he made a lot of sense. And so it's anyone's game. And again, Cam, it's who can get their team and get the voters out the poll, right?
Can,
Yeah,
can I?
no,
Do we have time for me to insert just a couple of simple remarks? I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
go for it.
Well, one thing is I see way too many people complaining about how much money people are spending. I guess they forget that our founding fathers risked their whole livelihood, everything they had to put it on the line. So I don't care how much people spend of their own personal money. If they're that committed to it, they think they want to make a difference, go for it. I'm thankful for those kind of people because they're not taking the money from the lobbyist or anybody else. They're putting their selves on the line. And the other thing I think we're going to see next week, because I believe the state Senate is probably key races there are as important as anything we're going to run into, is I think next week the grassroots is going to relearn a lesson that we had when it was back with the Tea Party, only it's going to be even bigger, that the grassroots are going to be the cause of winning lots of elections, and they're not going to forget it because all this trash we get in our mailbox doesn't have near the impact that someone knocking on your door and taking the effort to work for their friends to get them elected. That far surpasses all the trash that we get in our mailbox.
And I would agree with you. I saw a lot of advertisement in the last couple of days about how much Mike Mazzei was spending. And I'm with you too. If you want to spend that much money because you believe in what you're doing, I'm okay with that. I think most people are fine with that. All right. And so we're still in agreement. Cam, any last words, bro?
Yeah, no, to me, my number one fear is what candidate are we going to put against the Democrat Party? And if that person's going to be able to surpass that Democrat. So my fear is Cindy Mudson wins, who is going to go against her and be able to out debate her? That is my fear. So we need to have, again, great people, but we need to get the best. The best that's going to do the best job against her and the best person that's going to help the state of Oklahoma at the end of the day. That's my number one concern right now.
All right. Before we go, I have to shout out to Dave Moore. He's a good friend of mine, and he's a fellow journalist, and he used to write for the paper, and we enjoy our times, and he does have some witty things on his mind. But we don't all agree, Dave. You and I are good friends, but we don't agree on everything, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But I want to thank Cam and Mike for coming on tonight, and we have a great intro opening that was done by our good friend Nicole Vagrowski-LaRose. She got married a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago. And so that opening you saw in the Patriot Sentinel, she put that together for us. And I want to thank you again for doing that. And I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight or watching this in replay. If our candidates aren't your candidate, that's fine. What makes us Okies, okay, I'm going to call myself that now, is that we can disagree but still love each other. Because we all look, all these candidates are class act candidates. They are at the top of their class. Okay. And it's up to you to get the vote out and go promote your candidate. And, whoever wins in the runoff will have to face the Democrat representative for governor. And that's important. So we all have to get and do our best for our candidate. But once it's said and done, whoever wins the runoff, we have to put all our support behind that person going into November. And all the other races, the attorney general, whoever wins next Tuesday, they're facing a Democrat in November. The lieutenant governor's race, they're facing a Democrat in November. And I'm pretty sure labor commissioner and all the other positions, state superintendent, they're facing a Democrats in November. Okay, so it doesn't matter what happens next week, and it doesn't matter who goes into the runoff, is that whoever wins, that we put 100% of our effort into supporting them, because the state is great, and I don't want to say this is not a negative thing here, but we're Republicans, and we would like to see Republicans hold those seats. So I want to thank everyone, Mike, Cam, you guys have a good night, and maybe we come back on Tuesday night to do a post-election wrap-up to see what happens. So we'll move up the schedule from Wednesday to Tuesday. And I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. I'm Rashard Tortorello, one of your hosts for the Patriot Sentinel. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.